Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 5. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we start off kind of rewinding. We don't know how long ago this is. I would assume it's actually not too far in the past because they didn't, like, at least with last episode when our introduction to Isaac, we went back, it clearly said, oh, this is 2018. The fact is they never specified a date makes me feel like this was recent. So with the context of everything that's going on, because, what's her name? Harrand, she was like, oh, Isaac isn't here right now because he's dealing with the wolves because there's a whole conversation about maybe the truce has been broken. So that makes me think the war between the wolves and the Seraphites is super recent. It's not like this has been going on for a long time. It seems like maybe a very, very recent development in Seattle. Maybe not, but like I said, just because they didn't bother showing you like a date, it makes it seem recent. Like, and the recent could be like sometime within the past year, so like a couple months maybe, or I don't know. Like, the fact is they didn't really specify. Maybe it's just not that important. But either way, Harrand is sitting down with a person named Elise, which I immediately recognize that actress. I saw her name in the credits, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's like Hedian. I'm probably butchering it, like Hetian Park. I'm butchering it, but I best know her from she's one of the detectives in the a Hannibal TV show, if you've ever seen that. That's like, I think maybe one of the first things I ever saw her. There's something else I've seen her in. I've probably seen her in a couple things, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But like, definitely Hannibal's like something I immediately recognize, but I mean, immediately came to mind. So they're having a conversation about, like, she's like, okay, you kind of killed your team, especially Leon. And the sad thing is we find out Leon's her son. Because she's like, yeah, Leon was the best. So I sent the best out there, and the best ended up being her son. And this is where we introduce an element that I was like, oh, we're introducing this in this series? That's interesting. So we find out that there's a section, they were like, well, we thought they'd be infected, but it ended up being empty. So we moved on to B2. And then it's like a couple minutes later, it's like, oh, something's going on here. It's in the air. And now the wolves learn about spores existing, which is like interesting. And so Leon made his mom promise, like, yo, seal us up. It's not like, because if it was in the ventilation system, we'd all be infected by now. So it is stuck on the lower levels. But like, her son had to make the ultimate sacrifice and the wherewithal to be like, yo, seal us in here because we can't let this get out because we'll doom everybody. And being the mom who has to be in that position to do it, to have the wherewithal to do it. So, and it's like, right, you did such a heroic thing. I'm sorry about your son. Now, the reason why I'm making such a big deal about the spores, now, if you've never played the game, if you're unfamiliar, like, you know, if people who play the game will know this, they didn't introduce this in season 1, but in the first Last of Us game, and I'm assuming it's prevalent in 2 as well, there is a situation as spores. There are places like, when an infected body stays in an area too long, they can start shooting off spores. And the way to mitigate that is, like, once you inhale it, you're done. There's no fixing it. It's the equivalency of getting bit, except you're breathing it in. You're done, you know. And so you have to, like, a major part of the gameplay of it is, and it happens automatically, is when you enter a spore infected area, you put on a gas mask. That's the only way around, because you do not want to breathe that shit in. Because if you do, you're done. So they made a conscious decision not to include that in season 1, even though that is a prevalent part of The Last of Us Part 1. Now, so for them to introduce it like this in 2 is like kind of making it a build-up, I guess, like showing how the infection has evolved even more with the stalkers, and now this is what I'm assuming. I'm curious, once again, not knowing the entire story of Part 2. I am curious, does the spore situation involve at all, or is it just them taking an element that they decided not to include in the first season and using it as kind of like added bonus to, like, oh, we are bringing in more elements of the game, but we're just making it so that it feels more like part of the whole, like, oh, infection is evolving type of situation. So the moment they introduced the spores, I was like, that's so interesting, because I thought they made a conscious choice not to do that for the TV show. So that was interesting. Like I said, my not knowing a part 2 story, like, maybe they are relevant and they become something that does evolve too. So maybe that is their justification for including it now instead of in season 1, whatever the case may be. So with that all said and done, we come back to present day, and we've got Dina mapping it out. She's listening to the radio. She's trying to figure out locations on like, okay, there's this, there's that. She's triangulating stuff. And Ellie's like, yo, can I help out? And it's like, nah, because you can't. It's like, why? Are you saying I'm stupid? It's like, no, you're just not educated or something like that. And he's like, no, let me help out. It's like, she's like, well, I'm trying to like triangulate stuff. And Ellie's just like, yeah, you're the smart one. I'm gonna leave it to you. She explores the place a little bit more, finds like a stage with some guitars and some equipment. And just when she's about to play a song, she plays a couple strings that says like a single line of, what was it? It was like, I'm going to butcher the line, but it was something in the equivalency of like, when I lost you, or when I thought I lost you, or something like that. And the moment she says those words, she stops herself. Because now the question is that a song that Joel taught her? And it just like saying and uttering those words, it's just like, she's always casually brought up, like, you know, especially when she was talking to Gail to make Gail think like, hey, I'm okay, leave me the hell alone. She's just like, yeah, I uttered the words of I miss Joel. And just hearing, like, I think finally saying that out loud out of the context of like, I'm not trying to bullshit Gail. So it's just me saying what I need to say to get out of there versus like, I'm close to my revenge. I'm one step closer if I can get to Nora to finding Abby and, you know, getting my revenge and just holding the guitar, because she had a happy memory about all the stuff Joel taught her, but then it just kind of hits you like a ton of bricks, where it's just like playing it now, this particular song, these particular words, being like, no, like just being like, no, 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 putting the guitar down and being like, I need to focus on my revenge. And Dina comes as like, right, I have a plan and mapped out some places of where they're moving around. And they have the conversation of, well, why are they broadcasting everything? That's kind of stupid. But it's like, well, Dina makes the parallel saying that the Seraphites are like Amish people who don't like mess with technology. So they're like doing stuff freely on the radio waves, because they're like, well, we know that Seraphites aren't listening, so it's going to be fine. So they are reaping the benefits of that, because like, well, the wolves never expected someone infiltrating their territory. I mean, anyone that's not a Seraphite. So there's that. And their plan is to go to this one building, but it's like, wait, they've got security measures all across these places. Why is this one building left alone? And they're like, there's most likely infected inside. But it's like, if we can sneak into here, it makes it easier for us to get to the hospital, because we know where Nora is, because they're blasting it all over the radio. So on their way there, it's like, we got to go. But, you know, if it gets nighttime, like by the time we get there, it'll be nighttime. So it'll be easier to move around. And along the way, they come across more Seraphites that were killed, and it's just kind of that harsh reality, especially because now it's a different thing when like, okay, we ran into dead people before, and now you've got like, okay, Dina is pregnant, and now it's like you're torn between like, well, I just motivated myself even more if I need to go after Abby, but now seeing this, you're pregnant, she's like, I'm so stupid, we should go back. If you want to go back, let's go back. But the thing is, that's the problem. Ellie's not fully committing. She's not saying we need to go back. She's saying if you want to go back. She's leaving too much room for Dina to decide. But I get it. You want to let Dina decide. But Dina's like, nah, fuck that. We're going ahead. And she gives us her backstory about what happened to her mom and her sister. That it's like a raider came while she was around. She snuck out, had her gun. She was like, no one's going to mess with me. She's 8 years old. And by the time she came back, a raider had come in, like killed her mom and sister. And she's like, when I pulled the gun on the guy looked just as startled. And for her, it's like, it's always that kind of what if situation. She's like, what if I had gotten there like earlier? And what if I had to watch that dude do what because she's like, no matter what Joel did, I get it, like he did something to them, but no matter what, he did not deserve to go out like that. And you know, she's also coming from the place of she loved Joel, so for her it's like she's just as motivated as Ellie to get this done, because it's like he didn't deserve to go out that way, and like no one deserves to be like, we'd probably be dealing with a different story, because it's like, yeah, they still would have wanted revenge, but going as far as she did, because like everyone saw Joel's body, Dina saw it, Tommy saw it, and so did oh god, I'm blanking on it, Jesse. I'm sure other people saw Joel's body too, especially those who were probably like the lady that was cleaning his body before Tommy showed up. So that's enough to know like what he went through, what they did. They tortured him. They didn't just kill him. Literally everyone else was like, yo, make it quick, you know, but Abby's the one that wanted to like lavish and lean into it, because like, I need to get my get back. I need to make this go slow. You don't get to rush me, right? So that's just extra motivation, especially for Dina. So it's like, if I were like, if that had happened, if I didn't kill that guy then and there and he managed to get away, I would have tracked him down to the ends of Earth. I would have been chasing him forever. So it's like, and for Ellie, it's knowing like, you are the person I love and you're feeling just as motivated as me. You're also kind of giving me the excuse to wild the fuck out too, because it's like, rather than, because Dina's not talking her down, but she's like, if you want to go back, I will. Just let me know your decision. And for Ellie, it's kind of like, I can't let this go. I want to try. And like the angel on my shoulder is like, get out of here. You're way over your head. You might got this all planned out, but Dina's pregnant. You need to get her out of here. But then there's the devil on her shoulder like, fuck that. Get my lick back. I need to get my revenge. I can't let this go. I can't breathe until I kill Abby. You know? And it's like, even though she knows she's dragging a pregnant Dina along, but like I said, Dina's giving her like Ellie's not fully committing to be like, yo, we got to get out of here. Dina's giving her the window, being like, okay, like if you want me to go back, I will, but I want you to know I am just as motivated, and I understand you in a way like no one else necessarily could. I know what it's like to have a parent killed. I know what it's have your only family in this world killed. You know what I mean? And yes, she has Tommy, but it's like, it's different. She knew Joel before she knew Tommy, the man who was basically like a father to her. So Dina understands that motivation, and Ellie knows that she understands. It's like, you are a ride or die, and so let's keep going. But she doesn't say it like with like such conviction. She says it so quietly. She's like, let's keep going. And so they sneak in, past some guards and stuff, and then ultimately they make their way into the building. And it's like, well, there's no infected. And Ellie's like, let me go first. I'm literally the one that can't get infected. And so, but it's like, yeah, it's dead quiet in here. And even Dina going like, wait, she's like, I don't hear anything, which I didn't even think about this until people pointed it out last episode. Someone was like, oh yeah, like when Dina was counting the infected in that subway system, they were like, oh, Dina's using listening mode. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the games, listening mode is a mechanic in the games where basically it basically acts almost like sonar radar, where you can know where the enemies are. So it's just kind of funny. I think the only exception is like during grounded mode, which is the hardest difficulty in the games. I think they disable listening mode. So just a little fun detail in case you haven't played the games and were curious about that. But then people pointing that out of her using listening mode was kind of like, oh, I never thought about that until people pointed it out. But yeah, they make their way deeper in and they come across infected, the special kind. And it's like, okay. It's like, but even Ellie's like, well, this ain't going to be that easy. This thing is smart and it's fast. Plus, I got bit. And she's like, what were you talking about? It's like, yeah. Well, what was I supposed to do? Tell you in the moment? You wouldn't have. It's like, okay, we're going to flank this thing. One of us is going to distract it. The other one's come up behind. But then they find out, oh, there's another one. And another. And another. It's like, okay, so begs the question, did they lock down this facility because they knew these smarter infected were in here? Or did they lock in? Well, because that's what, like, if they were regular infected, they would have wiped them out long before now. So they must have lost too many people, because we saw like dismembered bodies on the ground. So these must have been infected that, like, either they're waiting to kind of study them, or they're just like, these things are so dangerous, we need to just isolate them so that like we always know where they are. Like, lock them in here so they can't get out. Because I was about to say, like, what other reason would you have for keeping them alive? It's like you send units in there and it's going to be a waste of ammunition and resources and people, because you're going to be sending a lot of people in there to their deaths. So after a while, they probably just stopped. Once again, we have no idea how long the stalker situation. Because once again, that's what they're called in the game. I did not know that until after when they were introduced in episode 1 is when I found out they were called stalkers. They've used the word stalked twice, so that's kind of a wink and nod to it. But whether they'll call them stalkers in the show or not, I mean, that's why I'm like trying to remember. I don't think they've ever used the term bloater in the show. I think the subtitles use bloater, but I don't think they've ever outwardly called them bloaters. Because like I said, I believe clickers are the only ones that have names. Like the regular infected are just called runners. So, but they've never used any of those naming conventions in the show. They've used them in the games, but yada, yada, yada. So Dina is in a cage, like caging herself away. Ellie's trying to distract all of them, but she gets overrun pretty quickly. Luckily, who saves the day? Mother effing Jesse, MVP. So it's like, cool, let's get out of here. They killed the infected, especially because they were getting super close. They were ripping into the fence of that cage that Dina was in, and she was out of ammo too. But luckily, Jesse showed up as the MVP. They got out of there, ran into a park, but the wolves won't follow them. So it's like, oh crap, there's more infected in there. It's like, well, I guess they know that's because they're assuming these people are Seraphites. So I'm assuming like because there were Seraphites in the forest that this is Seraphite territory. So they're like, right, we're not going to walk into their territory because that's a death sentence. We're going to watch from the outside, patrol, keep them locked in, or maybe because I'm like, there were no infected in there, so it was definitely because of the Seraphites. And Jesse kind of makes it clear it was him and Tommy are here. They split up, but they're here for Dina and Ellie because it's like, because Jesse's almost like, you're stupid for running off on your own, because he cares about Dina, so, and he cares about Ellie too, but it's like, you made that whole big old speech in episode 3 and you went off and did something reckless like this, which even she's like, yo, I went off, let's go do something reckless. She acknowledges how reckless this is, but and so Jesse, being the rational one, is like, we need to go back. And even Dina's like, okay, let's go. But I think it's hard to say whether Dina's saying that legitimately, because she kind of gave a look to Ellie like, I know how to play Jesse. We need to pretend like we're okay with this. And then when his back is turned, we sneak back here. I felt like that might have been what Dina was saying, but maybe it's like with these new infected here, like this kind of changes everything. We lost our opportunity to sneak into the hospital. But that sequence in the woods with I was about to call them the Whisperers, because obviously, like, them doing the whistling thing, I mean, it's not the same thing, but I don't think I thought about that until other people, like, brought up the parallel of, like, if you're familiar with The Walking Dead, there's a group in The Walking Dead called the Whisperers. They're not the same. It's not like an equal equivalency, but it's just, there are interesting parallels. What I also thought was interesting is that main guy who disemboweled that guy, that actor, I was like, hey, his name is Maurice Dean Wint. Just funny timing because he's on a show called Surreal Estate on Sci-Fi, which is currently airing its 3rd season. So it's just like, I was like, look, there he is. I was like, that's so cool. It's so interesting because, like, he's kind of waxing poetically, and his character, his name is August in Surreal Estate. He kind of waxes poetically. He speaks a very specific way, in a very, like, I don't know if old-timey is the right way, but he speaks a very certain way, and his character in this kind of speaks similarly. But the reason why I was also talking about the scene, besides, like, the craziest way to disembowel someone, not even, like, you're not even going through the trouble of slicing, you're sticking the scythe in them, and then, or sickle, and then you're having someone raise them up by their throat, and then, like, having the blade cut through them that way. I was like, wow, why not just do the simple thing of disembowel them yourself? Like, why? I mean, I guess that makes it a little more ritualistic. It's like, Jesus. I mean, we did see their handiwork last episode, so it makes you wonder, was it this guy in particular who did the disembowelment of those people last episode they found, or is that just everyone's thing? Because he was the one that did it, so it might be like his specific position in the Seraphites, because I think he's labeled as Seraphite priest in the credits, so maybe as a priest I'm also curious because it almost doesn't seem like he has the scars. Yes, he has a beard, and it's dark, so it didn't seem like he had the scars on his face, but that's why I'm like, maybe like your lack of scars, because it makes you wonder, does the prophet have the scars or not? Because we saw like a depiction of the prophet, but I wasn't paying attention to that, because she might not have the scars. Like, if you are a holy person amongst the Seraphites, maybe you don't have the scars. Only like the lower rank congregation has the scars, maybe. But what I was also bringing up this sequence is, I feel like I remember this sequence, not necessarily from the game, maybe I do, but I want to say it's like from like the early like first look trailer. Like, I believe this was like a video game sequence where like Ellie watches this particular sequence happen. I want to say that's straight out of the game, but I don't remember. I feel like, like I said, I think there's like an early first look, because I believe Ellie was by herself during the sequence, which she is partially by herself when Dina gets an arrow to the leg, and Jesse has to carry her away while Ellie acts as a distraction. Benefiting her on multiple occasions, being as small as she is, being able to kind of hide in that tree, and then slide into that, like, I don't know if it was like a little open space, getting away from the dogs, which, if you don't know, dogs are a recurring enemy in the second game. So I was curious, I'm like, are they going to do the dog thing in this or not? Probably not, because a lot of people will probably be super up in arms if you start killing dogs. But yeah, there's quite a few. They're like a main enemy, especially when you're dealing, particularly when you're dealing with humans. I don't know if there's anything on the infected front. I don't know if that ever comes up into, but I distinctly remember like constantly running into dogs, and people had that question of, "Are we going to make dogs the enemy?" So I don't know if this is supposed to be a wink and nod to that, but like, don't worry, people. You don't have to get up in arms. We're not killing dogs in live action because we know how pissed off we piss off of our audience. I mean, I think people even in the game were kind of upset by that, but it's a little different where it's like a game versus live action TV. It will still upset people, but there's a little bit of a dissonance that like live action would make it much worse. But either way, Ellie, despite everything, like, oh, I'll meet back up with you, she saw her golden opportunity. Like, I'm near the hospital. So she was like, fuck that, going after Nora. And then she closes in on Nora, and I was like, oh, yes. And she's just like, do you remember me? And Nora doesn't say anything, kind of gives her the look, and she's like, yeah, you remember me. And it's like, I'm sorry it went down that way. I'm sorry you had to see that. No one should have to go down like that. She's like, except oh, and basically she was like, that little bitch got what he deserved, threw some stuff in her face and took off. She's like, intruder. They're shooting at Ellie, but Ellie's hightailing it after Nora. It's like, Nora, you're going to fucking die. I'm like, dude. And then the moment she gets to the elevator and she falls down and it's like, oh, she's on B2. I was like, oh, you're fucked. You're fucked, Nora, because you're about to go in there with no gas mask. I don't even know if they know that gas mask could get around that, but I was also like, oh, you ran in there and shittily enough, you were going up against the one person where the spores don't mean shit. I was like, oh God, poor Nora. And so Ellie goes down there. And I think we never actually see it in the game, like the spores being produced from the bodies. We just see like, hey, here's a body like stuck to the wall. It's funny enough, like they do this sequence a little bit in the first episode, but when Joel and Tess are about to track down Robert and they come across that infected who's stuck on the wall, but there's nothing there, that's a sequence in the game where that would be your first introduction to the spores. So we're kind of getting a repeat of that, but these bodies are a lot more intact. I'm assuming that one of those guys has definitely got to be Leon. I want to say it's the second guy you see is Leon, but I could be mistaken. Still breathing. The bodies haven't even completely broken down. So that showcases it hasn't been that long for their bodies to still be very fleshy in the way that they are. And it's kind of sad. But like I said, I love the like detail of what it looks like when they're just like breathing and the spores come out. Once again, maybe that's something that comes up in the second game. But like I said, the spores are just there, out and about already, and then you'll find a body like that. But like I said, it'd be a lot more like mushroomed over. There's less flesh on it and stuff. Like I said, if you remember the body in episode 1 that Tess and Joel find, that's more like what they look like with spores everywhere. But you never see like the fact is them breathing and the spore clouds coming out of their mouth. And Ellie finds her way to Nora. Nora's like, oh, you killed us, you stupid bitch. We're both, these are spores. And just like, oh, you killed us both. And Ellie's like, did I? And she's like, oh my God, you're the one. You're the girl that's immune. Like, it was a room, like, because like I said, they were talking about it in episode 1 of this season. Like, no, it's bullshit. That's not true. It's just a rumor. None of them believe it. They all heard of whispers of it, but I'm sure because they were connected to the Fireflies where she was rolling up, because Marlene probably like got word, even though she was keeping a tight lip. By the time she probably got to, I think that was Salt Lake, if I remember correctly. By the time she got to that base, she probably told them about Ellie, and word probably got to the others, but they thought it was probably bullshit, so they didn't listen, or they'd heard whispers beforehand. And who knows if they were already there when Ellie and them arrived and then left again, or maybe they were already out by the time Ellie and Joel got there, and by the time they came back, I'm assuming like they had never been there and left. They were never like there during all of that. Hopefully the way I'm describing what I mean is, hopefully I'm describing it in a way you understand what I'm trying to say. But it's like, wow, you are immune. And she's like, yeah, I am. And then it's like, where is Abby? She's like, I can't tell. It's like, do you know why Joel is dead? Do you know what he did? And she's like, killed the doctor, the one person that could have made a cure for you. And then Ellie lowers her gun and then she says, I know. And that's been the $1 million question most people were asking. Does Ellie know? I mean, when you go to the season 1 finale, you're kind of like, Ellie knows it's bullshit, but you don't get clarity on it until like even part 2. It takes a while before you're like, even now, like over the course of the season, you're like, does Ellie know? Because like the way she's been pissy towards Joel, it might be a little bit of like her knowing. Maybe she doesn't have any proof. She doesn't know definitively, but she knows some aspects of it. She kind of pieced it together, but she's also not talking to anyone about it. So the question then becomes, how long has Ellie known? Is it a recent development? Because we have no idea how long she was acting, like the way she was acting with Joel in episode 1. We have no idea how long that had been going on. Was that a super recent development, or had it been going on for a while? And so, and for her just to be like that look on Nora's face, like, wait, what? Like, you know, and you're still doing it. It's like, yeah, I know, and I don't give a shit. It doesn't change the fact that you fucking murdered Joel. You tortured him. Fuck you. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm here because it doesn't matter. Like, oh, you were getting your get back? Oh, well, who cares? You should have killed me. I'm here right now to get my lick back. I'm here to murder you all. Where is Abby? And she's like, no. As she's like breathing slowly and dying. And Ellie's like, okay. Pulls up the metal pipe, is like, tell me where she's at. And is like, no. Goes for the legs. It's like, yo, dishing out some, yo, this is what Abby did? Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm wondering, does she know? They probably saw the condition of Joel's leg and everything and a broken golf club. They probably knew with some of like the beating his body took, but I'm sure it's probably more of a situation of like, I think that's probably extra reason why she's doing it, but just to see, because we've seen Ellie go, like, this is our first time really seeing Ellie go dark side, but we've also seen it, like the cannibal situation in season 1, episode 8. That was one of the times we saw Ellie go ballistic. Now, that was fight or flight. This piece of shit was going to eat her and other things. He was going to make her a child bride, so fuck him. But now it's like, this is different. That's like that survival mode, just like slash hacking him up, versus this situation where it's like, you are intentionally making the choice. This isn't defense. She's dying. But you're like, before you die, I am going to get you to tell me where Abby is, and whack, and we cut to black. And then we rewind a little bit as Ellie's coming, and you're waking up, and she sees Joel. He's like, hey, kiddo. And she's like, hi. And it's like, so this probably has to be pretty soon after they got to Jackson. So I was like, okay, so next episode is probably going to be the flashback episode. I think that's going to be the episode we're going to find out about the Eugene of it all. And going back to episode 2, it definitely seemed like Ellie had some idea about the Eugene of it all. And I'm wondering if Eugene is the reason why Ellie might know what happened with Joel and the whole Firefly situation. Maybe Eugene's the reason why, because we know he was a part of them, obviously, like, over, like, almost 2 decades ago at this time, almost. So, who knows? We'll have to wait to see if that ends up being the case. But like I said, I think I've talked about it in previous episodes, but in the game flashbacks a lot, where it's just like sometimes you'll be present day. It kind of pulls a little bit of a Lost, where like you'll flash back to that stuff with Joel and Ellie. I'm assuming they're kind of wrapping all that up in one episode. They're basically, this is getting treated like episode 7 of last season, the Riley episode. That episode, God. I don't remember if it has the same title. I think it has the same title as the DLC that story comes from, Left Behind, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so I think this episode is going to serve a similar purpose. But rather than having multiple flashback stuff with Joel and Ellie, we're only going to get it in. I think we're going to get it all in one episode, and you're going to tie in the Eugene stuff, I believe. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what gets covered next episode, but also, will we get any present day stuff? Will it kind of be similar to episode 7 of last season, where it was like the beginning of the episode and the end of the episode are set present day. Everything else in between was purely set in the past. So I'm curious to see if we get something like that. So I am very, very excited to ultimately see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all this penultimate episode of the season 2. So it's going to be interesting to see what it sets the stage for the season finale, which is even though it's being split between season 2 and 3, you can almost treat it like a Squid Game situation. Funny enough, it ends on the exact same number of episodes as Squid Game season 2 does as well, where it's like, rather than season 2 and season 3, it's more like season 2A and season 2B type of situation. But, like I said, it depends on how they wrap up episode 7 to kind of like, what would episode 6 set up for episode 7. So either way, I've run my mouth off long enough. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.